What happens when 1,000 state-of-the-art ambulances suddenly sweep across a struggling nation overnight? Picture Burkina Faso's streets, once quiet, now alive with sirens as sleek, high-tech vehicles speed through cities and distant villages. People gather, astonished, as these white ambulances, symbols of modern medicine, bring hope where little existed. It all started with a partnership worth $500 million with India. But this is bigger than a transaction. Burkina Faso has staked its future on a single, massive bet, investing in its own health, hoping to spark transformation and pride. If it succeeds, thousands of lives could be saved and new jobs created. The entire continent may look to Burkina Faso as a model. If it fails, the loss in trust, money, and lives will be devastating. So, what crisis forced this gamble, and who is the leader willing to risk everything? At the heart of this effort is a story of war, survival, and a president who saw disaster where others saw only routine. President Ibrahim is no typical leader. Born in Burkina Faso in the late 1980s, he first trained as a geologist, then became a soldier. By age 34, he led a coup, becoming the world's youngest head of state. His rise was forged in battle, facing insurgencies and witnessing a shattered health system. He saw soldiers and civilians waiting hours or days for care that often never arrived. The crisis was not just military, it was deeply medical. Carrying these memories, Ibrahim changed his mission, not only to win wars, but to save lives everywhere. Health became his new front line. He acted swiftly, launching free ambulance services, mobile clinics, and new emergency hospital units. These first steps hinted at a larger vision, a unified, modern system to reach every Burkinabé, even in remote corners. But the risks were enormous. Ibrahim wagered his political future and the nation's limited funds. If he failed, suffering would persist, and his rule could collapse. Yet, in a land where mothers walk miles for help, inaction would cost even more. Building a new health system needs more than vision, committed partners, and a willingness to face challenges that defeated leaders before. The solution came from an unexpected alliance, and a gamble that would test the country's resolve. On paper, buying ambulances is simple. Getting emergency help to remote villages is another story entirely. In cities, response times stretch beyond an hour. In rural areas, help may take days, if it comes at all. In most villages, a real ambulance is a rarity. Instead, battered pickups, often lacking basic supplies, double as emergency vehicles. Life and death depend on whether a road is open, or if anyone with a vehicle is nearby. The rainy season turns dirt tracks into rivers of mud, cutting off entire regions. Armed conflict can block passage for weeks. Bridges collapse, roads wash out, and some clinics become reachable only by foot. President Ibrahim knew this firsthand. He saw clinics overflow with patients who might have survived if help arrived sooner. He witnessed children and mothers die while waiting, and realized that equipment alone could not bridge the gap. Emergency response is not just vehicles. It's an ecosystem. Dispatch centers, trained medics, reliable roads, careful coordination, and above all, public trust. Without these, even 1,000 ambulances can end up as parked dreams. The stakes are high. Without infrastructure, Burkina Faso risks wasting a huge investment and the public's hope for the future. But the story is not only about obstacles. When India became involved, everything changed. This was not charity. It was a daring partnership that would redefine healthcare for a nation. The deal with India was groundbreaking in both scale and vision. What followed was a transformation few thought possible. Imagine 1,000 ambulances rolling down repaired roads, Indian-trained paramedics answering calls with speed and precision. Could this be the next frontier for African investment? Until recently, India's role in West African development was limited. Now, Burkina Faso has signed a $500 million partnership, not for charity, but as business. 1,000 advanced ambulances were distributed to every province. These ambulances are more than vehicles with sirens. Each one is equipped with trauma kits, satellite navigation, and a direct link to a central hub in Ouagadougou. Indian engineers and local teams set up tech support and trained hundreds of new paramedics, building skills and jobs. Funding this vision took government funds, Indian loans, and contracts for local firms. The impact goes further than healthcare. Roads were rebuilt, mobile coverage expanded, and hundreds of young people trained in emergency medicine and tech. Mechanic shops, dispatchers, supply chains, each ambulance spurred fresh economic activity. Challenges came quickly. Floods stranded vehicles. GPS systems failed, forcing teams to navigate by memory. But every setback led to adaptation. Villages pooled resources, teams improvised, and the system toughened. Other African nations watched closely. Ethiopia, Ghana, and more sent delegations to study the model. The stakes are real. If this works, it could reshape expectations for what African countries can achieve. If not, leaders may hesitate to pursue bold partnerships. But how has this changed life for ordinary Burkinabé? For some, the difference is immediate. Help arrives faster. Hope grows. For others, doubts and growing pains remain. Beyond numbers, meet the people whose futures now depend on this experiment. In Bobo Dioulasso, a boy named Idrissa fell from a mango tree, breaking his leg. For the first time, an ambulance arrived in under half an hour, rushing him to care and restoring hope. In a rural village, a mother survived childbirth because emergency help reached her in time. In Ouagadougou, a man suffering a heart attack was revived, thanks to a rapid response unimaginable months earlier. These are not isolated cases. Across Burkina Faso, ambulances now reach emergencies within 30 minutes in many regions, a life-or-death difference where help once took hours, if it arrived at all. The ripple effects are even bigger. New schools are training paramedics and dispatchers. Local workshops for ambulance maintenance are hiring, while support industries are creating new jobs and strengthening communities. International agencies and neighboring countries are watching. They see that access to emergency care fuels growth, resilience, and pride. Health is becoming a pathway to development, not just an expense. The once rare wail of a siren now means more than rescue. It stands for hope, pride, and a nation taking charge of its own future. Still, for every life saved, the stakes are high. Each successful rescue builds trust, while each failure threatens confidence. Whether this experiment endures depends on results, delivered day after day. But what made this transformation possible? The answer is an unlikely alliance and the bold negotiations that set everything in motion. This was never about charity. It was about ambition. Every heartbeat counted. Burkina Faso's journey from crisis to transformation proves that strategic vision can turn disaster into opportunity. 1,000 ambulances, funded by a $500 million partnership, are more than vehicles. They are symbols of daring leadership and national will. When every minute counts, decisions cannot wait. This was no handout. It was a calculated leap to save lives, create jobs, and claim economic independence. For every nation watching, the question is urgent. Do you wait for help or negotiate your own future? Real change demands risk and the courage to lead. Burkina Faso's choice dares us all to see hope in crisis and to build solutions that last. Because progress is never given. It is seized by those who act.